morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with me about topic. To begin with, how would you describe the current state of Ghana's tourism industry?
Well, I think that's impressively developing. Obviously, we would want to get to a stage where Ghana becomes the number one preferred in the world in terms of African, tourism. Obviously, when you look at the continent, although we are very big, one of the major players, we're still not at the top level where we want to be. If you take West Africa, I think we are now the leading, destination in West Africa. If you take the continent as a whole, you have major players in terms of tourism receipts like Egypt, Morocco, clearly South Africa, all right, in Kenya, for example. But in that order, I think Ghana comes next. Of course, you can talk about Tanzania, etc. Some of these big locations, but we're not doing badly at all. I remember somewhere before 2019, we were hoping to hit 1 million arrivals. Of course, by 2024 now, we're talking about 1.2 million, or even in excess of 1.2 million, which means that we have appreciably grown to a level where we can say that Ghana is one of the top arrivals destinations, in Africa. But of course, we're not a top player. So we want to make sure that we can hit the target, becoming the foremost, if you like, destination, in Africa, for example.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Since assuming the role of CEO, what's your overarching vision for Ghana as a global tourism destination?
I suppose, the idea that Ghana is at the center, of the world is not necessarily only, geographical. I mean, if you look at our role that we've played in geopolitical, domain, Ghana is one of the reference point. And when you talk about, political, arena, when you want to look at things from, international relations, if you look at our standing, by Kofi Annan, etc., is measured, not to even talk about Nkrumah. Ghana has been part of the global players, in the world of politics. Clearly, when it comes to, tourism, we are one of the players in Africa, but we haven't actually hit the top level where you would say that when you think about tourism, Ghana's name come, on top of mind, and that's what we want to be, amongst, the international arrivals. For example, if you take the Europeans, if you take the Americans, if you take the Asians, we have to be at the level where when you say tourism, Ghana's name should come up as top of mind. We haven't achieved that. But when you talk about global politics, when you mention, political, world order, etc., I'm sure Ghana's name is top of mind. So we should be able to hit the level that we hit when it comes to international politics. And I suppose that's where we want to be. And that's why we're doing the kind of things that we're doing. We're not just saying it as, we wish to be. We are putting the infrastructure that could help us achieve that. Currently, we're building, our two key systems, which is the Ghana Tourism Investment Platform and then the Ghana Tourism Marketplace. We believe that these two systems can help us, sort of, have a presence online presence. And when you have a very high online presence, then of course you have entered the global mindset. And so we believe that the online gives us the opportunity to sort of conscientize people that when it comes to tourism also we're here. And that's why we mean that, by putting down this proper infrastructure, we can start hitting the mindset, we can start hitting the awareness level globally as we wish to be.
Thank you. How do you plan to build upon successes of initiatives like your return to continue attracting visitors?
Fantastic initiatives. I mean, don't forget that this is not the first time we've had a very successful global campaign I mean, right down in the 90s, early 90s, I remember in 1992, we surprised the world with PanaFest. It was a major tourism promotion. Now, since then, our success had been mixed, right? Until the year of return, which again surprised the world with another fantastic campaign, which indeed had facilitated our objective of hitting the million arrival. Now, we have also begun with what we call the Black Star Experience, which our president, fondly talk about. If you come to Ghana in January, the kind of, excitement, quality, excellence that should greet you should equal your coming into Ghana in December. All right. If you come to Ghana on Monday, should have the same excitement as you came to Ghana on the weekend, which means that there has to be consistency in our delivery of tourism excellence. And that's why the Black Star Experience, the philosophy behind it, that Ghana shouldn't be known for only December. Ghana should be named for 24-hour, 365 days in a year. And so we're moving towards that. And so to build on the success of previous campaigns, PanaFest, in emancipation, obviously, return, the year of return, beyond the return, we are plugging into the Black Star Experience with digital systems that could facilitate the year-round successes. Now, the Ghana Tourism Marketplace promises us that particular excellence. Why? Because if we can find, or if we can put all the vendors on one platform, backed it up with a strategy, backed it up with a backbone, for example, we could make sure that the players are delivering quality all year round. For example, if somebody books a hotel, we get an alert, the hotel gets an alert. Now we can, in 10 minutes, draw the attention of the hotel staff to say that there is a booking in your tray, you have to respond to that. We've answered that quality dimension that the president is talking about. If we have everybody else under one umbrella, we do not have to have the arrival or the tourist searching online, looking for things, looking for services, looking for attractions, etc. It's all under one roof. They could hit here, they could order a car, they could actually book for a performance as National Theatre, all under one roof. This is what we're talking about, plugging into the Black Star Experience. And so that's the contribution that we are anticipating to have, to ensure that the Black Star Experience succeeds, ensure that the president's vision succeeds. And as a build-up to the year of return and the beyond the return that you talk about.
That's okay. How is GTC working to expand Ghana's source market for tourism beyond traditional strongholds like the US, UK, and Nigeria?
Traditionally, we have been attending ITB, World Tourism Market. These are events that actually happen in our source markets, Europe, America, bringing, tourists as a result of these, promotional, exhibitions. We believe that if we hit, with the two digital systems that I've talked about, especially with the Ghana Tourism Marketplace, then of course we are boundaryless. We do not have to say that we're only targeting Europe or America, because the world, the internet is global, isn't it? World Wide Web. So a Chinese will see us because we're going to actually make good use of search engine optimization, make sure that the algorithms are top notch, in order that if you search us in Japan, tourism in Africa, we hit the first. Tourism in Africa, if you search us in South Korea, we hit the first. And we are actually showing you in the amazing pictures, amazing offerings. And you can book hotel, you can book, airlines, you can book restaurant, you can book everything under one umbrella, making sure that your travel is seamless. I am sure we're going to get arrivals, coming from these other sources. So the use of modern technology would diversify our source market and make sure that we can plug into other areas that we don't see as our traditional market. So yes, we want to target, our approach to a digital future that can expand us the source market.
What efforts are being made to enhance domestic tourism and encourage Ghanaians to explore their own country?
I have always argued that you can't legislate for people to participate in tourism or any other, life experiences, but you can nudge them, you know. You couldn't say, oh, be a citizen, and so go to Asemanso. You can't say, oh, you have to make sure that we develop our tourism, so be patriotic to consume Ghanaian made so and so. You can't legislate that. But human beings as organisms will respond to stimulus, all right? So the theory of stimulus, organism, what do you call theory, actually tells you that when organisms are nudged, they respond. All right. In that sense, we need to make sure that we can put in structures that would make the Ghanaian respond. And I'll give you a typical example. We complain from the tourism perspective that people don't stay in the city to enjoy the city. They close from work, immediately they want to go home. How do I affect that particular behavior? Okay, can I tell Accra City Hotel to say that, look, give discounts to food from the period of 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., Monday to Thursday, 70% discount on food. Wouldn't you stay after work? Absolutely. Nobody would actually say no to such tantalizing offers. So we have to be, strategic in our approach. We can't force people, but we can nudge them. We can instigate people with certain offerings. All right. The same as maybe you want to have a very nice wedding. You wish that you can have a very nice wedding at Kempinski or at Senchi, for example, but your money is not up to that. You can't pay for that. Okay, can we tell Senchi or can we tell Kempinski to say, when is your off-peak period? Maybe the month of March or the month of February, people don't really come. Okay, now how much do you lose when people don't turn up in the month of February? Oh, maybe we lose about 10,000 cities. Okay, what if we help you to recover 30% of that? So we rather develop what we call the tourism incentive vouchers, which is part of our systems. All right, we target and then boom, 70% discount for Aqua Safari or for Senchi or for Kempinski. Someone is going to promote their wedding instead of delaying it. They say, oh, why don't you push the wedding forward so that we can take advantage of it? These are strategies that we can use to instigate the market. So for me, the domestic tourism would respond to strategy. Put in the right strategies, the market will respond. As a result, we could actually push people. You see, the motivation that actually gets international arrivals are not the same as the motivation that gets domestic tourism. These are two different markets. We need to understand the psychology and we need to understand the strategies that we can use to instigate the market. And that's what we're going to do at GTDC.
Thank you. Regarding challenges faced by some tourist sites, what is GTDC's role for rehabilitation, modernization, and improvement?
It's investment. I mean, our core mandate is, and it's in our name, isn't it? Ghana Tourism Development Company. We're responsible for bringing investment. We're responsible for developing tourism offerings in this country. And our approach is simple. It does not come easy looking for investors into spaces. They're going to ask you questions. If I plug my money here, how do I recoup it? How long would it take? Do I even know that the sites are there, etc.? That's why we've developed the Ghana Tourism Investment Platform. So if you go to investintourism.org, we're there. We're asking both private and public entities to list spaces for investment. Now, the listing comes with also making it known the infrastructure available. All right. So if you list, let's say, a certain tourist site that we're looking for investment. Let's say Asen Manso, for example, slave bath. Okay, what kind of investment do you need? We state it, all right. But we also have to highlight the infrastructure available, roads, the trunk roads, that is from Accra to Asemanso or to Cape Coast or to Winneba. What type of road is it? Asphalt, gravel, or raw earth? We indicate. What's the kilometer stretch? That is asphalt. Which kilometer stretch? That's gravel. You indicate. Okay. Then you come to town roads. The road from the town, of within the town of, let's say, Asemanso, for example. What type of road is it? Asphalt, gravel, earth, you indicate. Kilometer, you indicate. Then access road to the tour site. What kind of road is it? Now, once we give these details, again, water, types of water, treated water, river water, borehole, stream, we indicate. Electricity, available, unavailable, whatever, unstable, internet. You give this concise update, very comprehensive update of that particular site. Certainly, if an investor is watching, looking at this online, and don't forget, it's online, digital. So globally, somebody can be sitting in America. We're using search engine optimization. I want to invest, or tourism pump. They get to see, oh, wow, I'm interested in this particular facility. Then they initiate conversation. Now, we believe we can use these systems to get people to invest into our spaces. Apart from that, we believe we can offer technical know-how, in terms of regulatory frameworks, in terms of compliances. We can advise people who want to do that so that it can shorten the processes of investing into spaces. If we can offer these services, I'm telling you, we can see tremendous growth in investment and participation in our spaces.
Okay. How do you plan to attract and incentivize further private sector investment in the tourism sector, particularly in hotel development and building of facilities?
What are the private sectors saying? One, bureaucracies. All right. Two, they want high yield investment. Three, they want to be sure that they're not going to be obviously scammed or having troubles, etc. So, as I mentioned, if we can create one platform as Ghana Tourism Investment Platform with investinTourism.org, when you come there and we have already done the work for you, all right, we have already indicated the number of public offices that have to come into play. So we've listed ORC and we've told you what the ORC would do. And we've shown you where to do them. That is Office of the Register of Companies, right? And we've shown you the processes. We've shown the processes of GTA, how you're going to go by them. And we've shown you forestry commission, maybe you want to invest in a site, all right? We've shown you maybe Ghana Investment Promotion Council, the processes, because you are a foreign entity coming in. And we've literally handheld you in terms of the compliances and in terms of the, the processes. It will shorten your time, that it will take you to. So the bureaucracies are reduced. We've reduced your risks because we've identified to you the where those sites exist or where those structures or facilities exist by embedding into the system a Google live location, so you can see that this is river water, this is a plain area, this is valley, this is, if we can do all that, certainly the private sector will be happy to get in. So the key is make the processes seamless, easy to do for the private sector, promise them high yields, and they will definitely get into the system. And that's why we're bringing all the partners together. It's a matching platform where we can match regulators, private sector, public sector into one platform.
Specifically, what plans are in motion to address the issue of violence leading to popular tourist destinations Are there any major infrastructure projects underway of that?
Obviously, there are different ministries responsible for different things. The tourism ministry is responsible for tourism, but of course, we have what we call, there's a word called intersectionality, all right? Each and everybody's work actually fit into somebody else. So although tourism ministry is not responsible, or my minister is not responsible for roads, her work borders on roads because there's an access issue, right? And so there is interministerial relationship that goes on to, affect the tourism consumption and tourism services provisions. But particularly the GTDC's role is to highlight, the road infrastructure. And that's why on the GTIP, we ask about the kilometers of road in terms of trunk roads leading to the place. What status is it? Asphalt, gravel, or earth? All right. Now, those information, when provided by the side listings, would help us to get a report so we can generate a real time report, be able to tell how much in terms of how long, in terms of distances, how long is the tourism routes, in what quality, all right? So we can say maybe 100,000 kilometers of tourism routes are asphalt or are, what do you call, gravel or what do you call rare earth, right? So that is the opportunity for us to be able to tell the stretch or the distances of our roads that are in a certain statuses and be able to give updated records, updated reports to the sector responsible for road and say we have certain what do you call this is the distance of roads that are supposed to be worked on. And hopefully, once we have these data available and we have this interministerial relationship between my minister and then the roads minister, we'll be able to, resolve some of these things. So ours is to record, ours to report, and ours to continue to negotiate with the sector responsible. And hopefully, we can get these things sorted.
What is your message to potential travelers considering Ghana as their destination?
Simple. I mean, Ghana is your best choice. Why am I saying that? This is the country that is at the center of the world, and we're not saying it. It is documented. Ghana is at the center of the world. We are actually on the longitude zero. And then the latitude zero is just few distances of our shores. So if you want to understand the world, I think that this is where you come from. And if you go into issues like geotourism, etc., you discover things that are fundamental to human existence. Formation of rocks, the minerals, how do the mineral deposits come about, gold, diamond. This is the place where you want to understand some of these things. And then apart from that, we always talk about our peaceful nature. I mean, this is not taken for granted. Ghana is one of the most stable countries globally and is documented. All right, one of the most peaceful, destinations you could ever exist. I mean, you could ever go. Of course, our culture, the heritage, as you know, Ghana in geopolitical systems or in geopolitical terms had been at the center of, world conversations. Of course, we always are, we are solemn in terms of, what happened in the past, the stories of slavery, etc., which Ghana was at the heart of it. We're very solemn. We have debated the world about some of these injustices that has actually happened to us and to the broader continent, and we have asked the world to do the right thing. I think currently we're talking about the reparations. Let's talk about reparations, which our president actually recently highlighted, and it's been at the forefront of our global campaign in terms of, heritage tourism. I think that we are asking the world for healing processes, you know, and we are asking globally, everybody else to join us in this conversation. So for us, coming to Ghana is one thing, humanity, to understand humanity from its diverse ways, you know, from the political system, what happened in the past, and from social cultural systems, how, Africa in particular, our place in the global, structure. So Ghana offers you one destination that you can understand not only Black people, but also humanity. As I said, it's the center of the world. If you're seeking for healing, again, that's where you want to come to, you know, where you can reflect, especially for diaspora Africans, where you can see the injustices that the world perpetrated against us, and you could have a certain thought, a certain reflection, and a certain healing process, all right, that could, spark so many good things, after leaving this particular shores. Obviously, we hold, a significant percentage of the world heritage, in terms of the castles, the forts, etc. And if you want to understand global architecture, especially from the European perspective, again, this is where you want to come to. So, not to even talk about our own fight for freedom and the idea that our first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, led the Pan-African movement towards freedom for Black people anywhere in the world. These are significant, conversations that if you want to have and reflect on that, this is the place you have to come to. Whether you are diaspora, you're a Black person, you are Caucasian, you're Asian, you want to understand the world, humanities, I think Ghana is your destination.
That's good. What are the unique experiences and cultural immersion opportunities that travelers expect when choosing Ghana as their travel destination?
As I mentioned, you want to understand the heritage of the world itself. The Europeans and their trade, the global trade, how did it start? Where did it start? Such in-depth, solemn conversations couldn't be had anywhere apart from, starting from Ghana. If you want to understand Africans and Black people and culture, diversity of culture, you want to come here. Look, we have so many festivals that actually speak to the Black people and their lifestyle. The drums that we play are just not for sound or for rhythms. They are, very in-depth conversation with humanity. So the talking drum, if you want to understand what drums are saying, you want to come here. Every dance move has its meaning. All right. Every cloth, every food, the cuisines, we're talking about gastronomy. All of them have their semblances. They have their symbolics, all right, symbolisms. They have their meaning to human life and humanity generally. I think that there's so many that you get as distinctive features of Ghana's tourism landscape. And so for me, if you want to understand yourself as human being, the very many things that has happened to the world and to African people in particular, these are the distinctions that Ghana actually hold, and you want to come and understand. You want to actually explore your individuality in Ghana before you go anywhere else. And if you have been to anywhere else or everywhere, I think that Ghana is where you have to come for the summation of it, to really put all together to make sense to you. I think that's what you get.
Okay, so what is your personal passion and motivation driving your work to greater levels?
It's one thing. I want to make sure that Ghana is set on the pedestal that we have to be. And I believe I have a lot to do with that. I feel our potential, we're still exploring it. We haven't gotten to the stage where we can say we have arrived. And I suppose, with the kinds of training, with the kinds of experiences that I have, I have to bring it to bear to achieve the Ghana's objective or the Ghana's aim of being part of the top when we talk about tourism. I always say that when you talk about politics, we have achieved it. I mean, Osajefo took us to the level where it's unimaginable, with geopolitical systems. We haven't achieved that with tourism. And I believe with the kind of insight that I have, humbly think that I can actually contribute to the level where Osajefo, also did take us, to the political system. So it's a collective effort. And I think the very small part that I can play would contribute in a much more meaningful way to achieve the kind of tourism that we expect in this country. Pan-African and emancipation cements our role in global tourism. We talk about heritage, we talk about understanding the black people, understanding the relationship of the black people with the rest of the world, etc. These are some of the things that Pan-African and emancipation talk about. Very big global conversations, right? And so they cement Ghana's place in the tourism architecture. But at the same time, they give us a framework for the way forward. What is the next conversation of black people and of heritage tourism, for example? And as I told you, our president just mentioned, let's talk about reparations. The healing process, partly played by the conversation on reparations, because injustices were meted at people, and we must be conscious enough to solve them, or to if we can't even solve all of them, to speak about them, and to firstly acknowledge and apologize of the global role or the role that the West actually played in this very unfortunate and very I don't want to use very strong words, but despicable act towards fellow human beings. We need to have that conversation, and I think Pan-African emancipation actually puts those conversations on a global scale, and they contribute to our understanding of some of these things going forward.
So how is GTDC collaborating with local communities, traditional authorities to ensure sustainable development preservation?
As you know, we manage Adomaa. So, for example, we manage the big tree. Of course, the tourism spaces in Ghana are actually managed, differently, and there are different players. For us, although we manage Adomaa and big tree, not other places, but we have one singular role: to bring investment, to develop tourism in our spaces. And as I said, GTDC currently is moving toward digital, platforms. We believe that we can enhance tourism delivery and consumption from these platforms. And that's where we're moving towards, so that we can offer the infrastructure. When we talk about infrastructure, we talk about support, to offer the support basis for tourism supply and tourism demand, or tourism consumption, in Ghana. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're very focused on modernizing the tourism, in this country. And we believe that when we have been able to do that, we can enhance the entire space, and tremendously. And that's what we're focused on.
Are there specific plans to invest, develop new iconic game-changing sites?
Yes, of course. We've talked about the center of the world. There are quite a number of plans that we have. We need money, don't forget. And so we believe we need to do the foundational things first. When we're done, we could actually get onto that. In our own space, we're looking at embedding technology to Adomaa, for example, so that people can feel the immersiveness of the history of slavery. We want to improve, or we want to, the center of the world golf course, we want to develop it to a level where it can be global and it could be iconic, for example. Quite a number of other sites that we are liaising with the Forestry Commission, and other agencies to bring them to a scale that people will really appreciate. We're talking about agro-tourism, for example. We are working with other players to bring agro-tourism to the forefront, not to forget geotourism. When you go to the University of Ghana Earth Science and they're telling you about this country, you marvel. All right, 3 billion years ago when people occupied this land. Those conversations are in the rocks, all right? Deep down level of, humanity can be found in the rocks of this country. What have we done about them? We haven't done much about. So there's so much we can do with educational tourism, all right, where we can teach people, or we can let people understand their own humanity, and understand the world order, from social cultural perspective to heritage perspective, etc. So much to do. And as Nkrumah said, so little time, but we will do them.
Sure. Finally, Mr. CEO, what message do you have for Ghanaians regarding their role in creating and sustaining tourism?
Offering. I'm going to give them very convenient, seamless offering. They should watch out for Ghana Tourism Marketplace. If you're going to Kumasi, Sunyani, Takrady, Ho, everywhere else, you can find it on Ghana Tourism Marketplace. If you want very juicy offers, you can find it there. We're going to satisfy Ghanaians to a level where they would now come to appreciate that tourism is very important to their lifestyle. And I'm bound to do that. Thank you.